boardroom. This is the Business of Esports podcast.
The fastest growing entertainment phenomenon of this generation.
I, prophet of esports, joined today by my friend and co-host William Collis.
Yeah, we got the book of esports out. It's a big deal.
So everyone knows me as the prophet and William as the professor. From the keyboard to the boardroom, this is the Business of Esports after show live stream. I am Paul Dawalibi. I'm joined today by my friends and co-hosts, Lindsay Poss, Victoria Taylor. Welcome. If this is your first time to the after show, welcome to the after show live stream, the official after show live stream of esports. What we do here is we cover everything that just didn't make it into the podcast. The news, the topics, all the great stuff that we just couldn't fit in to the podcast. We still look at all of it through a business and C-suite lens. We still dissect everything. We still, the topics are still just as exciting, just as interesting. But the best part of the live stream is we get to do it live with you guys. We get to interact. You can challenge us. You can ask us questions. Please feel free to participate. It makes the live stream that much better. If this is your first time here, welcome. Please participate. If you're returning, like so many of you that I recognize, please tell your friends about the live stream. This is how we grow it. It's really appreciated. And by the way, go buy some Business of Esports merch like these From the Keyboard to the Boardroom t-shirts. It's another way of supporting us, and we really appreciate it. John, welcome. And everyone else who's in here, welcome. Lindsay, Victoria, how you guys doing?
Great. Spring is upon us. My allergies are back in full force. If anyone hears me sneezing, just go ahead and keep it to yourselves.
So this is not the paint fumes anymore.
No, it's been a fun couple weeks in my little world.
Christian Martin and Associates says first time here on the live stream. Christian, welcome.
Guys.
William, I think is just his usual running late.
No, we're doing an International Women's Day special this season.
That's it. I love it. And
actually, International Women's Week. Yeah,
and a Victoria birthday special. So everyone, please send Victoria happy birthday wishes. Unfortunately, she had to share the day with International Women's Day. We're petitioning to have International Women's Day moved, so she doesn't have to share the day. But in the meantime, please wish her a very happy birthday. Sharky says, just joined. Where's Will? Sharky, your guess is as good as mine. I'm sure he will be here. He does have 2 kids, and so sometimes he does run a little late for the live streams. And Christian, thank you for following the podcast. We really appreciate it. He said he'd been following the podcast for a while. Greg, how's it going? Good to see you in here. And Sharky says, was hoping to ask him about him releasing his entire Rocket League team. It's a good question for him. I hope he will be able to answer it, Sharky. I mean, the team business in general, I think if you're a longtime listener to the podcast, the team business in general is really, really tough. Very, very tough. But we can get into that, by the way, if you want to a bit later, and hopefully he's here to address that directly. Christian says, I come from the sports industry, but I've listened to the podcast for a while. I'm looking to work in esports, here to learn, network, and find my next opportunity. Christian, you've come to the right place. And I will say, in fact, I will tease this because it's coming down the pipe. We will soon, both on the Business of Esports and the new site we are launching, most likely have job listings and job opportunities available for people who are looking to get into the industry. So I will say, stay tuned for that. Chris says, run, Christian, run. Chris,
get out of here.
Yeah, like there's always this temptation to I either want to give Chris a hug or I want to ban him every stream.
A little smack, yeah.
And Martin says, ahoy, Martin, good to see you.
Hey, hi,
great to have all of you here. All right. Before we jump into topics, let me just give you guys a tease We had this week on the podcast a guy named Kevin Wright, who is the president of GameSquare Esports. They're one of the micro cap public esports companies. They're traded on the Canadian Securities Exchange, obviously up in Canada, and they have an interesting model. They're trying to sort of buy up all the esports talent agencies and creative agencies and aggregate them and consolidate them. So he was the guest on the podcast this week, so stay tuned for that tomorrow. I will also say we did discuss three topics on the podcast, which I'm going to show you guys in 1 second here. The first thing we talked about, obviously, was Roblox going public through a direct listing. I just love this headline. And in fact, the current, I think, market cap is like north of 40 billion, bigger than Etsy, Kroger, and Best Buy. The joke I made on the podcast, I will tell you guys, is that it's only worth 2 GameStops, though. So that seems reasonable. The other thing we covered, obviously, this other story on Roblox, 45 billion on first day of trading. The other news story we covered was the video game industry consolidating. It was an article by Jason Schreier. Great article. He asks a great question at the end, which is like, is consolidation among game publishers a good thing? And he sort of puts forth this idea that potentially that's a scary situation. I can tell you that almost everyone on the podcast wholeheartedly disagreed. So, I would, that's an interesting conversation to check out tomorrow on the podcast. Sharky, the main podcast, you can find it anywhere. You can find it directly on our website, thebusinessofesports.com. You can also find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, literally anywhere you can possibly get a podcast. We're even on some of the Indian podcast networks. So this is like the extended reach. But you can get it anywhere. Even the live stream, the audio and video gets published to those podcast streams as well. So if you miss the live stream, you can listen to it or you can watch it the next day. It's not as interesting as participating, but but the main podcast drops every Thursday on all of those channels. So that, and finally, the third story that we covered was Bally's wanting to buy Allied Esports for $100 million.
Ooh.
Lindsay, yeah.
No, I'm just so excited to hear your takes on it.
Look, it's an interesting story, right? Like it's
So
one of these stories where, and happy to jump into it if anyone wants to, that's watching right now. It's one of those stories where they had this initial offer, right? Like, so let's back up. Allied originally said, we want to get out of the business we're in. We want to essentially sell all our assets and become a SPAC. And then they got an offer. Really, they have two assets of any value inside the company. One is the World Poker Tour. The other is their HyperX Arena and some of the esports assets that they have. And and basically they had a deal with Element Partners to go sell the World Poker Tour. They wanted to then sell the esports assets separately. Then Bally's came in, offered them $100 million for everything. When the original offer for just the World Poker Tour was $78 million. So it's interesting. Bally's, could just be valuing the World Poker Tour much more highly than Element did, and they'll take the esports stuff like as a side dish, or they could be truly valuing the esports stuff, with some valuation, a few million, 10 million, 12 million, 20 million, who knows? But they see more value in the business than Element Partners did. So we had a good discussion around, what does this say about the value of their esports assets, particularly the big arena in Las Vegas? Chris says, I was quoted in that. Chris, I mean, I quote you on this live stream all the time. I mean, I don't know. But yes, it is you are the king of Las Vegas esports. And so I'm not surprised. Jeff says, this live stream has really gone downhill since Jeff took the week off. Welcome, Jeff Cohen, to the live stream here for the first time as a first-time viewer. I really feel like the quality remains basically unchanged. If anything, it really flows better when Jeff takes the week off. But Everyone has their own opinion. Thank you, Jeff Cohen, for that comment. Sharky says, I hear about deals like inflating an esports bubble. Is there an esports bubble right now? Actually, this is a good question, guys. Hold on. Actually, before I get to this, William, welcome. And you're muted.
But I'm on mute. I said, sorry,
There we
we
go.
really did go downhill. I'm running late. Jeff's not here. I thought Jeff was going to be here for sure. I thought Jeff had basically moved in permanently. But I got to be honest, guys, it's much nicer with just the 4 squares. It's more balanced.
Yeah, we have a clear quadrant.
Yeah, you got to see more of my face, which is always a, hopefully a plus. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, this Jeff Cohen guy has another comment. I was thinking I'd be anonymous. This is awkward.
Super awkward.
Classic Jeff.
Ooh, not the best moment.
Okay, hold on, Sharky, before we get to this question, because it's a great question, and I am going to get to it. Sharky had a question for you, William, specifically, and I said William would answer it when he gets here.
Anything for you, Sharky.
He says, was hoping to ask him about him releasing his entire Rocket League team. What's the story there?
Oh, that's it. Well, I would love to go into, a lot of detail here, but the truth is I'm just not really involved at all in the day-to-day of the team management anymore, right? I'm just not, focused on that. So I don't know the specifics of why we made that decision or what the thinking is. But I mean, I'm sure it has to do with us, either I don't know. I'm sure, all the time, I guess, teams look at adjusting the portfolio of players and games that they're in. And I imagine it's just part of the rebalancing that the team is doing. But I wish I could give a good answer. And the truth is, I probably should know better than I actually do. Because this would be a really
William
good time.
Collis, team owner, says,
I
don't know what happened.
Seriously, this would be a really good time for me to actually go into the details of running a team and the explanation and how these trade-offs are made. And if this were more historic roster rebalancing decisions, I could really go into it. But the truth is, most of what I do right now is focused on sort of, the other businesses, the data analytics businesses and things. And, as a result of that, I just, a decision like this, I just really didn't really have much visibility into, but I'm happy to answer maybe more generally, which is because I can't comment out this one specifically. Would it be useful if I spoke more generally about basically the trade-offs a team sees when they make a decision to cut a roster, or is that just not helpful? I don't know.
William, can I maybe prompt you on something?
Yeah, go for it.
First of all, I think most people don't realize how many things William does other than his team. So let me just preface this with this.
That's true.
He's a very busy man. He's got a lot of things going. The team is just a small piece of, call it, his esports portfolio. This is why he's a legend in the space. Okay, let's get that out of the way. Let me just prompt you on this, William, which is, could it be that I was just fabulously right about Epic Games not knowing how to do esports? That fundamentally esports for them is a marketing expense, and Fortnite, Rocket League, the Nate Nanzer group, if they're not pumping millions of dollars into big flashy events, really no one cares about those esports. There's no substance behind them. There's really nothing there.
That's I have to be honest. We had a good experience in Rocket League with the Psyonix folks, is my memory. They were really pleasant to work with. They were smart. They were very engaged. I think the game drives really strong traction and fan followings, right, and viewership. And I think when we were in the game, we were very competitive. We're performing at a very high level. So, no, I mean, the simple answer would be to say something like that. Oh yeah, we felt that. But no, the reality is, I think we had a very, very positive experience in the game. We really liked Rocket League.
No, yeah. I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking Rocket League. I think Rocket League is an amazing game, incredibly fun, massive player base, right? Hugely profitable. There's all same things I feel about Fortnite. It's a great game. It's very fun. It's hugely profitable. But as esports, pure, right? The purest of the pure, the stage, the pros, the audience, that Epic doesn't really seem to know how to do this. And maybe their games aren't that well suited to it. Or maybe some combination of both.
Well, that's a separate strategic question, right? Independent of the experiences that we've had in any of these games. I would say two things, right? One is, let's talk about, there's really 2 games you're referring to in the Epic portfolio. I guess 3 now. You have Fall Guys, Fortnite, and Rocket League, right? Those
Yeah.
are quote unquote the 3 esports potential properties. Okay, let's start with Rocket League. I think Rocket League has phenomenal potential and credit as an esport. It's super competitive. It's one of the easiest esports to understand. Like literally, it's incredibly easy to understand. You can tell anybody what it is. It's soccer with cars and they get it, right? It's very and it's nonviolent, which is humongous in a space where, tons of gamers are, let's be honest, young, right? It's an esport that you can have kids watch, and it's not about, clicking heads, right? So I think Rocket League as a property in the Epic portfolio has incredible potential and incredible value. Let's, kind of jump in with that one there, right?
So William, are you not proving my point then? Sorry to cut you off there, but like you're proving my point that they have a jewel, they have a gem, right? And if you gave Rocket League to Riot, there'd probably be a thriving esports scene, incredible competitions around the world, pros piling in to compete. I'm giving you a hypothetical scenario, but I feel like the proof is that they have a gem, and you've convinced me it's a gem.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it not exploding then? And Chris says, Rocket League has a huge opportunity to draw new audiences. Sharky says, Rocket League has the potential to be the esports of the future. Epic's not doing enough with it. Advertiser friendly, simple concept, all the things you brought up here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is Epic dropping the ball on it?
Well,
and there are other esports, I would argue.
Look, I think this is, it's an interesting question, right? And let me just go through the other. I mean, look, let's take Rocket League as an example, because that's what we're with, right? Like, do I think that there's an opportunity to invest even more aggressively in Rocket League for even more traction? I mean, that could be true of many esports, right? Specifically, I think Rocket League has been incredibly well managed, actually. If you think of how competitive it is to keep a game around in an esports space, like look at all of the esports that didn't stick. The very fact that we're still talking about Rocket League is very important. That's one. Two is I think Rocket League has a unique challenge to it, which we kind of miss, but is really important, is pretty much every other esport can add meaningful game differentiated content. You know what I mean? New maps, new guns, new abilities, right? Rocket League is a true sport in the sense that like it pretty much has to stay the same. Do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't have the same capacity as an underlying property. And that I'm not, I think that's a very positive side of the game, but I think it also fundamentally causes some limitations on how the game can scale versus other esports, right? So, I think if you put all that together, no, I think, like, I think you're sort of trying to get me to say something like, oh, yes, they should have done way more. No, I think Epic's done a very good job with Rocket League, and I would stand by it. I think to have managed a property to still be a successful and relevant and top esport today, like I think is a big achievement, particularly considering the history of the property and where it came from. Do I think Rocket League could even be bigger than it is now? Yes, I do. I think Rocket League has potential to be, a League of Legends style esport because of its age demo appeal and its gettability. So do I think that there's more growth that could happen in it? Yes, but that doesn't mean I think they've done a bad job today. Not quite the opposite. I think they've done a very good job to get it to where it is as a relevant top tier esport. And really that's the other thing I'd say. It's the only esport of its kind like that that's relevant and top tier, right? Like that itself is an achievement. It's not in an existing genre like shooters, right? And it's like to me, it's incredible that they're basically the only kind of they're sort of the only game of its type, really. These sort of sports simulation games that are really breaking tier 1 mainstream esports play.
I mean, I could argue FIFA is in the same category, or
Well, no, sorry, that's true. But those are different because those are tied to underlying sports.
No, I get it. I get it.
Right, like those are fundamentally different because they have the benefit of the underlying sport. There's no underlying remote car soccer league.
Well, William, you've also ignored the great Lucio Ball and why that never took off as an esport. Lindsay, you were going to chime in here. I'm curious, are Rocket League's, in your mind, best days ahead of it, or are you on the side of Epic is kind of mismanaging their esports properties?
Well, that's what I was going to ask because it is surprising to me, especially as a casual gamer, that Rocket League hasn't taken off more, given that it's so accessible and easy to watch and it's fun. Like I like watching Rocket League. It's very fun. Is there anything that Epic could immediately do that you guys think would shift it more into the public consciousness? Like, is there anything that any piece of their strategy so far that you think they're missing in getting to the mass market appeal?
Live concerts. Just kidding. No, but it's a really good question, Lindsay. I really liked William's point about, I mean, this game compared to other esports games, if there's a continuum in terms of the ability to modify, say like year to year, and be able to implement like real change and updates to existing games, I agree. I kind of place this with, like you said, Paul, FIFA. Like this is just a very straightforward, easy to understand, which is great for audience engagement. But in terms of it being able to be sustainable long term, it's an interesting point. And I'm trying to think of other esports that compare in terms of the level of ability to modify year after year, version to version.
I mean, you guys all bring up good points, right? I think where my view here is a little misunderstood is, and so, you know, Cam says, I think Rocket League can absolutely still grow. I agree. Chris says real car tie-ins. I agree. You guys brought up some great points in terms of longevity of the game. You know, Christian said, you know, agree with William. Longevity of the game speaks to the soundness of the business. All of these things are true, right? And I never denied Rocket League's success as a game. What I think we're ignoring is why aren't they successful, or why aren't they more successful as an esport, right? As a pure esport, just the pure competitive scene with an audience, not people playing it, not gamers spending money on it, like the pure esports side of it. And yes, that's a small part of the business, right? Like the Rocket League will survive, will thrive for many years, I think, because of all the things you guys mentioned. The question is, why has Epic not been able to crack the esports piece? And I truly believe when you guys asked what can they do, right? It's not more tie-ins, it's not more this or more content or more that. It's none of that. It's everything sort of Riot does at the grassroots level tournaments, supporting those communities, supporting those, you know, tournaments that are, you know, and the tournament providers, and making sure at a grassroots level you have interest in the competitive scene. And only then do you get sort of and that takes time and it takes money and it takes effort. And it doesn't happen like Epic can't flip that switch and Rocket League is a successful esport tomorrow or more successful esport tomorrow. It's the sort of thing where you need like a 5-year plan. And I just think Epic doesn't fundamentally understand that. They want the switch. They want, we were like, how much money do we need to spend to make this work? And I think they're thinking about it the wrong way. Sharky says they just did some advertising with Ford.
Yeah. I was going to bring that up. It was really cool, actually.
Oh yeah, what was the activation, Lindsay?
They put a custom F-150 into the game that you could play with. It was cooler than I thought it was going to be, honestly.
Like those are great things to, like, I think, push the game. I don't think it helps the esport. I hope you don't mind if I multitask and PUBG while I listen. Anonymous LinkedIn user. I don't mind at all. Sharky says, are they not doing something that other big esports are doing? Yeah, I think they missed it's too much. I think internally the conversations, and you guys stop me if you think I'm wrong, I think internally the conversations at Epic are, if we do an esports tournament and we put up big prize money, how many more players will we get and how much more content will we sell? Right? So they're thinking of it as a marketing and sales tool rather than, okay, guys, how many years and how much money do we need to have an esports scene that is self-sustainable and profitable? And I don't think that conversation is happening at Epic. Sharky says they just started investing more at a grassroots level tournament, so I guess they just start this process this past summer. Yeah, it could be. I think they're late if they're just starting it now. And Chris says, are we overplaying the opportunity? There's only 40,000 playing right now on Steam. I mean, I would assume, Chris, the player base is bigger on Epic Game Store, maybe. I don't know. I actually don't know. What do you guys think? Was Steam representative, you think, of the Rocket League player base? William, do you have thoughts on that? I don't know.
Yeah, I'll jump in on this. It's tricky because I think Rocket League, and this is not based on any data or anything else, this is just sort of intuition, but like I think as a more sports simulated title, those tend to skew console driven, right? I think Rocket League probably has a pretty significant console basis that makes the Steam data relatively, inaccurate in addressing it, right? Like I know just anecdotally for myself, I much prefer to play Rocket League on console when I play. You know what I mean? So
Because
yeah,
of the
I don't know if that,
controller and
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know if that's a great like answer, intuitively, because again, I don't have the exact game demo data and I don't think I've ever really seen anything for it. But the idea is I think you can't underestimate that, there are just certain like shooters will always skew PC unless it's Call of Duty, right? But in general, sports games tend to skew pretty heavily console. And I would put Rocket League in that genre. So I would imagine it has a pretty heavy console basis. You know what I mean?
Christian says, yeah, William, I agree with you totally on that. Christian says they should put the new Mustang in there. Sharky says $15. Sharky, was that the price of the F-150? That's a lot for
that is a
skin.
lot. Yeah.
And Chris has agreed, but still not at all. If cross-platform, 500,000 to 1 million concurrent players at any given time. Yeah. The game shows it when it queues. So I think the player base is very healthy. I just think they should have started 2 years ago in terms of, or when did the acquisition happen? About 2 years ago now, I think, right? Thinking about sort of how you build a competitive, like a really healthy competitive scene. Okay, I wanted to get to the bubble question. Sharky, I think it was Sharky who asked it. Before that, can we just get to some of the news this week and we will end on the bubble question? Because I think the bubble question could end up being a bit of a rabbit hole, and I do want to get to some news.
Let's do it. Let's do some news.
I will just say this. The short of it is there is no bubble, okay? Gaming is the most exciting industry on the planet. The growth is there to back it up. Like there's no major bubble is the reality.
You just couldn't resist, huh?
Yeah, really. It was just killing them.
Okay, let's stick on Epic. We're on Epic. Let's stick on Epic, okay? And we have another acquisition from Epic this week, except this time not a game developer. This time they bought a software maker called Capturing Reality, and they do photogrammetry software. And really, this is more of an infrastructure play. For those of you who don't know, what the software does is it allows you to create 3D models very quickly of like real life objects, things, places, people, all kinds of things. So it stitches together photos and can create 3D models very efficiently, very quickly. Interesting technology. Interesting that Epic would acquire this. Lindsay, I'm curious. We've talked about Epic's acquisitions. We talked about the Fall Guys acquisition. We've covered some of these things. In some of these conversations, I think we've not all focused on Unreal Engine and sort of their infrastructure play. Do you like this for Epic, especially in the context of maybe them going public soon?
Well, I'm wondering how this is going to integrate, or if they have a plan for combining this with their I can't remember what it's called now, but the human, when they were able that AR human.
Oh yeah. Like the super realistic. I don't even remember metahuman or something.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if they're trying to build their own little in-world universe for people. But I mean, this is a very forward-thinking acquisition, and those can go a lot of directions. If Epic has the vision to take this and make this something really cool and be able to integrate VR experiences and maybe, buy some other company that produces VR hardware, then it could be really interesting. If they don't necessarily have a long-term goal or a specific long-term goal, then it could just be another property that's acquired, kind of like MetaHuman, that does something cool, but that we don't necessarily know if it's going to be a success or not. I certainly hope that they do integrate it with MetaHuman in some way and create like an awesome VR world that's really detailed and in depth. but we'll see what happens.
I mean, what you're alluding to here is sort of this metaverse, which is a term that, you
Yeah.
know, I feel like
Classic.
we need to do a live stream drinking game. Every time you hear the word metaverse, take a shot.
I specifically
if-
went right around that in case you're wondering.
If you're over 21, that is, just to be clear.
Yeah.
But William or Victoria, I'm curious, you know, I've been somewhat critical of Epic that they took their eyes off the metaverse ball a little bit. And maybe have we been sort of like, have I been, you know, are the tools that they're acquiring, the metahuman stuff that they built, this capturing reality stuff, like, is the metaverse reality going to happen through these sort of infrastructure and technology acquisitions more so than buying some like really cool up and coming VR game developer, right? Like, this is maybe the boring stuff that is what really fundamentally creates the metaverse. Do you guys feel that way, or do you think this is just a one-off to sort of beef up Unreal?
Oh, you go first, Victoria. You go first.
Well, before I comment, I just had a question. What did they acquire them for? Just curious.
I don't think in like private
It didn't break
acquisitions
the
like
bank,
this,
right?
the financials are almost never disclosed. So terms of the deals
Okay.
weren't disclosed here.
Okay.
Because
Yeah, I
first
mean,
of all, Epic's not public, and neither is capturing reality. So
I don't know too much about this, but what I do know about it from the very little that is this is pretty scientific stuff, right? This is
high
it's pretty
tech.
interesting. Yeah, this is
cutting
high
edge
tech.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit surprised when Epic bought them. That being said, I just feel like I again hate to say it, but with their metaverse plan ahead of them, or at least they want to be competitive in the metaverse space, to just say that alone, I think they want to have this like creative inspiration on their team. Whether it's going to be part of their, you know, this is going to be centered around their whole plan, I don't think so. I just think it's added expertise in this area and that creative influence. But it's hard to say. It's interesting, and I think I just don't know too much about it. I'll have to read more about this, how this works.
William, you wanted to chime in here.
Yeah, you know, I'm trying to think how to say this.
Are we seeing a metaverse thesis from Epic in hiding here?
I was so excited to answer this question. Now I'm being very careful about what I say. Like, I so badly want that. Like, I've wanted that for like I've wanted that since like I feel like the dawn of time. I've been like, oh my God, please, you know. But the reality is I don't. Metaverse is not something you can do quietly. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't think you quietly wander into the matrix, and I don't think you get there by degrees, right? At least not given the space of today's market, and not how quickly other people like Roblox do seem to be moving towards the metaverse, right? Because let's be honest, we're very far from the metaverse today. So if you're going to get me
like
to the
that
metaverse,
Matrix metaverse, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're going to get me to the metaverse with like the boiling frog analogy, where like you know, like we're never going to get there. You know, we're never going to get there. And I don't see the drastic actions on the part of Epic that would make me believe we're in metaverse land, plain and simple. Do you know what I mean? Like plain and simple, because again, like this is also something that you don't, if you're going to do, it's such a strategic priority for the company. You don't tiptoe around it. You know, you don't accidentally build the Matrix, guys. That doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, you don't just wake up one where you're like, oops, we got the Matrix. Like, no.
I mean, that is sort of happened in the Matrix. That is sort of how it happened.
Okay, well, no, that is not true. The machines that very purposefully built the Matrix, Paul, like very purposefully. So, you know, like, yeah, what do you want me to say here? Like, I think I wish it was the case, but I think if they were really doing this, it wouldn't be in the stealth stage that it's in right now. So I'm sure they have plans for a more aspirational, interconnected experience with more touch points for people. Like, I definitely think they have that. I don't think this is the metaverse coming slowly. You know what I mean?
Can I just throw one thought out there on this? Sorry, Lindsay, go ahead.
No,
One thought out there, which is, could this be Epic essentially drawing a very distinct line between them and Unity, where, these are the two major engines that power every game, right? Unity has a big chunk of the mobile market. I would argue Unreal has more strength in desktop and console. And are they sort of saying, look, we really want to be at the cutting edge of immersion and, technology, and creating the most lifelike experiences and giving developers the most cutting edge tools, right? Where Unity is more like, we want to power every Candy Crush. Like, is this a market positioning sort of strategy, right? Where they say, look, Unity, you can sort of have mobile. We're the big boys. We're going to play, in this fancier stuff here. Do any of you feel like that may be the play here? I mean, Martin has a comment that reinforces this.
Yeah.
He says, this has great synergy with Quixel, another company that Epic owns that scans environments around the world for Unreal Engine assets. Sorry, Lindsay, go ahead.
No, that was exactly what I was going to say. Is Epic, from the outside, with the amount of information we're given, seems to have two kind of very divergent strategies. And one is these fun, really kid-centric, cartoony type games, which, as William rightly pointed out, Fall Guys was the perfect acquisition for, because it has a lot, actually both of you pointed out, has a lot of the same fun interactive elements as Fortnite. Makes total sense. And then the other one is this metahuman Unreal Engine, very tech, very scientifically driven, very forward-thinking kind of projects going on. And they just bought that, $95 million enormous mall. So in these strategies, not that they're polar opposites, but they just seem to be on very different tracks.
Sure.
And I don't know that they'll ever merge, but we certainly know a lot more about the Fortnite Fall Guys, where that might be going in terms of esports professional tournaments. They've done that. I don't think that there's any clear evidence or data on where they're going to go with this more tech-driven, really kind of nuts and bolts type of innovation driven stuff. And I'm really curious to see what they choose to do with it. I wish we knew more. And you're right, William, maybe you can't build it quietly, but maybe you can. We don't know what's going on.
I mean, it could just be Tim Sweeney, eccentric multi-billionaire, just wants to play with really cool tech, right? Like it could just be that
could
too.
Be so many things. And the fact that these paths are so different is really curious to me. And I do wonder what the long-term strategy is, especially since they just bought that huge facility. And I imagine they're hiring like crazy and doing all these things. So we'll see. It's interesting.
It is interesting. Chris says the Collis sign needs to be a sound drop. We're gonna have a soundboard of William. Christian says, is this the same matrix you allude to at the end of your book, William?
Yeah, no. Oh, first of all, I mean, thank you for that question. I can't say that more clearly. Like, that is so flattering in so many ways.
This is a William plant.
Like, that is so flattering in so many ways. Did Jeff Cohen change his name? And is he like, that is because first of all, it alludes. It is
the greatest book in all of esports.
Well,
William. Come on, no need for humility. Come on.
No, I'm deeply flattered by that question. The matrix that I talk about at the end of the book is really more like, is not the same as this metaverse that we're discussing right now. Like, the metaverse that I think we're discussing right now is a much more present version of this. Basically, it's a deeply interconnected online world where player content and creation and interactivity and even different modes of games and content consumption like movies or music can all be engaged from a common platform. That's what we're talking about right now, right? It's basically like, you could think about it as a really, really incredible MMO with lots of stuff to do in it. You know what I mean? Almost, right? That's a little underserving it. But the difference here, though, is the matrix at the end of the book that I talk about, or that's really sort of like the overlap with the physical world, right? Where what I think will eventually happen, guys, and thank you for humoring me here, but quite seriously, what I think will eventually happen is we'll enter a mixed reality where we will choose to consume some things physically and we will choose to consume some things digitally. And we're sort of already in a mixed reality today, if you think about it. Like, we used to send letters, right? but then we decided letters weren't so good, so we moved over to email. You know what I mean? Like, we could still send letters, but we decided that the medium of email and this electronic immersive was like, and that's a very low level example, but the point is, like, you can choose to interact physically or digitally. And I think it's really that hybridized world. And we might be, 100 years away from it, 80 years away from it. But that's what I really talk about at the end of the book, where you might choose to have some experiences entirely digitally, whether through incredibly immersive VR or whatever, and some experiences entirely physically. And we're not talking about Epic Games giving you a choice between experience something physically or digitally. We're talking about Epic Games knitting together software and content offerings in a way that is an incredibly immersive experience, but they're fundamentally different, I think. Did that make sense? Did I answer that well?
Well, Cam agrees it was a wonderful question, and I agree. Christian says the term Unreal Engine is no longer taken literally for me after this episode. And Christian says, thanks for the clarity, Williams. There you go. Martin mentioned, I had a brief chat with Tony Reed from Epic a few months ago, and yeah, the Unreal Engine play is very important to them. Having an engine is a big deal. I mean, Martin, no question. And it's a big deal also from a public markets valuation, right? Instead of going public and saying, we have Fortnite, now you can say we have Fortnite and we're a platform, right? Like that word platform to investors is just is solid gold. So no question that they think the platform, the engine itself, is a very important part of their play. Sharky says, how long before we get to Ready Player One experiences? I talk about this a lot. I'm curious what you guys think in terms of years.
Wow. No, I was going to say, we just answered this not too long ago, because this is, Paul, your favorite.
This is the core of my thesis.
The holodeck,
it's the holodeck or Ready Player One. Mm-hmm. How many years, guys? Put a number to it. I'm curious what you all think.
I'll go first.
Yeah, go ahead, Victoria.
Full Ready Player One experiences?
Yeah, like in the movie.
Okay. Like mainstream, or it's capable?
And everyone in chat, I want you guys to take a guess.
Like it's okay, it's popular or it's capable?
No, like we're doing it.
Okay. 15 years.
Okay. Lindsay?
Which I think is
too soon.
15
is a good number.
Okay.
I was going to say 10 to 20 for the tech to develop. In terms of when adoption happens, I mean, we're still way behind on internet. Like, I don't know when adoption catches up.
You ever tried to print
everyone
something?
had to have it. I just
No,
said
I know, but
some people had to have it.
Oh,
Okay.
well, if you're talking about the use of the world, then yeah, 10 to 20 years. Probably more like 15 to 20.
That's it. When the me's of the world have it.
Yeah.
William, how many years?
I honestly, guys, it's a lot closer than we think. We're in 2021 right now.
Yeah.
I think it's 2050, 2055 before I'm like, it's
You think 30 plus years?
25 to 30 years. I think I'll be about 60 years old when, and I think it's going to be the great, like, quite seriously, like, I think it's going to be the great generational divide that I'm going to be on the wrong side of, which breaks my heart because I'm going to want to be on the other side of it. But I think this is going to be one of those things which were like, and I'll give you an example, like electricity, right? Like there was just a generation that grew up with it. Then it happened. It was such a powerful technology. It got everywhere quickly, right? And now, like, nobody's like, oh my God, I should, nobody's like, oh my, like nobody, like, we just think it's the dark ages, right? Like, and I guarantee you people who grew up with it, like in many instances, by the way, guys, this was our grandparents, I think, right? Like, I seem to think that there are people who didn't have easy, reliable access to electricity in rural areas, of even relatively developed companies and countries until like, 100 plus years ago, maybe great grandparents or something. But like, I mean, look at Downton Abbey, guys. That's not that long ago. Like,
how is Downton Abbey brought into only William the Great?
Well,
William
no.
Collis
Let me finish like
Downton
why I'm
Abbey
making this
into
point, because it's these real generational divides. Like Downton Abbey feels ancient to us, but it's because it was on the other side of this generational divide and the modern world coming in. And I think and again, these generational divides happen very quickly because the tech is so powerful when it's there. Everybody wants it. Great example is mobile phones, right? Literally, how long did it take mobile phones to be everywhere? Like 5 years, right? Sorry, I'm talking about smartphones, like 5 years. It went from Apple launches one to like everybody has to have one in 5 years, right? So the point I'm making is it's going to happen relatively soon. And when the technology is out there, the shift is going to be like lightning. It's not going to be this gradual thing where all of a sudden 50 years from now, like it's not like it's literally going to be like we get the tech and the world starts to be unrecognizable from the world prior to it, within half a decade. And I think that tech it's not that far out. Look at what people like Elon Musk are doing with brain implants right now. Like that stuff is crazy. That's very futuristic. It probably, but again, so was the internet 30 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, and now we're live streaming. I mean, this very act we're doing right now could not have existed. So it's a lot closer than we think. Be prepared. Sorry, is that a long-winded answer? I don't know.
It's a great answer, William. And I agree with you in terms of the speed of the change. I think we're going to be on the other side of a more significant, probably generational divide, which is genetically like modified human beings, where we're going to be, the dummy sort of natural born ones compared to the superhumans. But in terms of like Ready Player One future, look, Chris says 20, Cam says 15 to 20, Greg says 5. Greg, you are really optimistic. I think that's
Greg's ready. Greg's ready to rock.
Really aggressive. I'm sort of in the middle of you guys. Like if you ask me sort of behind closed doors, Victoria, I'm totally with you on this. I think it's about 15 years away. Publicly, I think I usually say 20 just because it makes people feel a little better that it's not coming so fast. But I think it's in that 15 to 20 range, which I think Cam, I'm with you on that. So Christian says, who's keeping track of the predictions? Is there a master list? We should have a Business of Esports Ready Player One pool to figure out who gets it.
With this, I just want to quickly say, with this type of product, though, or this type of whole area, it's not just one product, but new way of being connected. I mean, William, to your point of it being like smartphones and seeing how widely they were adopted and how quickly, I feel like we can't really compare it to smartphones because it was just the step was cell phones to a smartphone, right? But with this and having like the actual brain connectivity, I feel like there's going to be a huge restraint from people to adopt this. I mean, I always talk about
connectivity though, Victoria.
Oh, I thought we were talking about like full on.
But you can have immersion without total brain connectivity.
So you're saying like a Google Glass?
No, I'm talking about like the current state of VR with some other devices to trick
VR,
your other senses, right?
I see.
Some evolution of VR. So in some ways, like the Ready Player One future, I think, does evolve out of VR in the same way smartphones evolved out of cell phones. But I see your point.
But like, no brain connectivity?
It's an interesting thought. I don't know how we get there, right? Like I don't know the steps between today and there. I just know technology will figure it out.
Yeah.
And if your point is around, like, is the point around people's willingness to take on new things?
Kind of. I mean, I just think there's some sort of discomfort with connectivity. I mean, like, I don't know how many years ago it came out that people were getting, I think it was in Sweden, they were getting chips inserted into their arms so they could do all of like their payment. Like, so payment, like it had all of their data in their arm. They could just tap things. And then the joke was going around that people are going to get their arms chopped off and people can just steal their identity. Obviously that's not the concern, but the concern was just having it track like inside your body and being just more connected to you. So anytime I think about brain connectivity in terms of this metaverse or this matrix that we're talking about, that's where I get a little bit, I don't know. I don't know if people are going to be into it. I don't know if it's going to be widely adopted as quickly as we think. But if we're just talking about VR,
as someone who has worked in tech the last 20 years and lived and breathed tech his whole life, you would be, if you look at history, those kinds of hangups have remarkably no impact on the success of a technology. Like the reality is, once something is popular, once something is compelling and the experience is compelling, like all these hangups that we imagine today, like no one's going to want to get something implanted in their brain. Like if we could see 100 years from now, everyone's running around with something implanted in their brain, right? Like the reality is what we consider hangups today in 10 or 20 years will probably not be a thing. Historically, I think.
And I guess it depends who does it first, like who are the influencers around that. And I mean, why I brought up Google Glass kind of as a joke was because it's almost like if it's done wrong, like I don't know if that could be detrimental. Probably not. I think it would still move forward. But with Google Glass, that was like revolutionizing the space, and they had high expectations of people just adopting that and rolling with it. And then obviously it sucked.
I mean, that's more a Google issue than anything else. Cam says, Sharky says, CRISPR works on all age groups. Don't lose that hope. Thanks, Sharky. We may be genetically modified yet. Cam says, I think the power for workplace training, school learning, and gaming together will really boost the development for VR and beyond. Cam, 100% agree. 1,000% agree. Chris says, less invasive, the better the adoption. Agreed. Martin says, people will sacrifice almost anything for convenience. Yeah, I don't think it will take long for people to adopt this kind of tech. That's the thing. And if your friends are doing it, if your family's doing it, like the pace at which sort of adoption takes place when a technology is compelling, people just stop worrying about those things. Let's talk about Google, actually, and Google's failures in the context of another story this week, which is this was from gamesindustry.biz. Cloud gaming firm Blade seeking investment after filing for bankruptcy. This is the company behind the Shadow cloud gaming service. They've been placed in receivership in France. They claim they're a victim of their own success. They have, I think, in another article I saw that they had about 65,000 subscribers at around $14 or $15 a month. They had cut their price in half, thinking they would get to 1 million subscribers, which they obviously didn't. They have one of their big suppliers who manufactures all their custom servers and things coming after them, saying they want all their hardware back, worth about 30 million euros. I have one simple question for you guys. Between this, the failure of Stadia Games, the bad news around the head of Amazon's Luna leaving, is cloud gaming dead for now? I'll put the for now as a qualifier. Anyone feel free to jump in.
Yeah, it's done. It's done. I don't know what more you can say. Like, you've had two huge people try and fail. It's done. You know, like
right?
Yeah, 3. Yeah, and I wish, guys, I mean, look, I'm all about it not actually being done. You know what I mean? Like, I would love for there to be a different outcome here, because the vision of cloud gaming is so good. Because just to be very blunt with you, like, how many times have you been playing a game that you really love on your PC, right? You have to take a business trip. So this is before COVID, because I guess I can't say, like, you have to take a business trip. You get on the plane. Maybe you've done some work. You know, you've maybe, you know, like, you're at that moment when you're like, oh, maybe I'll watch a movie or something. And then you're like, oh, I've got that game I want to play. I can't play it. Like, how much does that suck? I don't tell you. And like, so just that simple use case solution alone, right, is huge. Let alone the fact that I could comfortably move around my house, play on the living room TV and the downstairs TV without having to drag a console around because my saves are tied to the console. Leaving aside the fact that a lot of people can't afford consoles and top-end gaming PCs. And like, I mean, I can just keep cascading. Like, we want this. It's really good. But it obviously didn't work. And, you know, I think it didn't work because there's a more fundamental problem here, which I hate to say. It's the latency. Like, I think apart from anything else, there is a fundamental challenge, which is that so much information has to be passed back and forth. And you can't have these massive cloud commuting things built right next to your house, because if you did, you might as well have a computer in your house. You know what I mean? And so there's not a way to get around that. There's not a way to get around the fact that the experience, as strong as it could be, is inherently flawed, because the idea of doing the calculations for core gameplay remote from the end user. It's just a technical barrier. Maybe quantum entanglement, it'll come back, but I think the technical barrier today can't be solved.
Guys, can I ask a follow-up question? Unless you guys had different thoughts than William there. But for Lindsay and Victoria here, right? Let me just push a bit. Is Shadow's, and Shadow has, in my belief, had the best cloud gaming service, right? They didn't have the exclusives of a Microsoft and things like that, or the all you can eat pass. But from a technology standpoint, they were by far the best. And you know, I can get into why, but they were the best. If you just trust me on this, technology wise, they had the best solution. Okay. And it still failed. So therefore, is this an indictment, these failures in cloud gaming? Is it an indictment of the people trying to bring them to market, right? Like Google or Shadow or Amazon? Or is it an indictment of, like, is it the market speaking, in other words? Is it just people just don't want this, right? Like there's just no demand for it. And like, where do we place fault here in your minds?
I mean, I still just think that fundamentally people don't have the tools and the capability for connection that this requires. I work in technology policy. I look at how Americans are connected to the internet. It does not support this for the vast majority of Americans. So I don't think that this is something the market wanted at all. It's a really cool tech for people who have the connection and can afford it, but they didn't snap it up very quickly. And that's just such a small percentage of the population that it wasn't going to influence the rest to do anything about changing their situation. So I think that it put the cart before the horse a little bit.
So Lindsay, just so I understand, are you saying this is a demand problem? This is a demand issue.
Absolutely.
It's not a product issue.
I think it's way more of a demand issue. I think that we have a very unrealistic picture about how people are actually connected to the internet in this country. It's a huge issue. And we saw it a lot during this pandemic with virtual schooling. I read dozens of stories about school districts who didn't require video because students at home internet connection didn't support video. That's how poor a lot of internet connections are. There's no way cloud gaming would be supported with that type of connection. And the mass market audience has a bad connection. So there's just no way that this is going to get adopted by a mass market audience.
Victoria, where do you see the Shadow, like where will the Shadow failure here sort of go down in the history of cloud gaming?
Yeah, Lindsay raises a really good point. For me, when I think about cloud gaming, I think that in theory, it makes so much sense. Like, I don't really understand why these attempts keep flopping as hard as they are. And maybe it's just because I'm not an experienced user with cloud gaming. I haven't felt those pain points as a user. I just haven't really understood that. That's why, Lindsay, to your point, maybe that's a real issue, right? Maybe cloud gaming, like you said, came too soon. But in terms of your question, Paul, what does this mean for the future of cloud gaming? I hope I hope that someone comes in and does a good job and does it right and has the technology capability they need. Is it a product problem? I don't know enough about it to be able to comment on that, but I feel like the demand is there. If it worked well, I think that the demand is there. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's one of these. I always compare these failures to plane crashes, and William's heard me sort of use this metaphor many times now on the podcast, which is like, I never believe it's one thing, right? When something as sort of well-intentioned as a Shadow with smart people behind it, right? Like when you have, because I knew some of the Shadow team, like I think what they were doing was really quite smart in the space, quite unique from a technology standpoint. They were doing things Google engineers had not even thought of, right? So like really kind of a unique place. So when something like that fails, my view always is it's never just one thing, right? Lindsay, I agree with you. It's a demand problem. Victoria, I agree with you. It's probably a demand and the product problem. And I'll throw in, it's a demand and product and marketing problem, right? Like the way they message these things and communicate these things, Stadia is the worst sort of offender in this case. Just has never made sense to me. And so it's like, I always feel like it's many things going wrong to result in failure like this. it's hard to just sort of point or decide on one.
There's definitely rarely one thing
Yeah.
that leads to 4 large companies failing. Like, this wasn't just Google either. Amazon tried too. The resources were there.
Sharky says if it's not Microsoft or Apple, then yes, referring to like, could this is cloud gaming dead? I mean, Sharky, look, the reality is Microsoft or Apple are the only two sort of left potentially in the running. Everyone else now has sort of tried and failed. So there is truth to that. Christian says we have everything else in the cloud. Still shocking how cloud gaming keeps flopping. It is. What I will be interested to see, Christian, is how many years does this set cloud gaming back? And will we see a resurgence, 5 years from now when maybe some of the tech has been figured out, or I don't know. Will this come back, and over what time frame is the question I think about. Greg says stick a fork in it. Greg, I agree. I mean, I've been saying that for years now, just for the record. Is this a microchip problem where we need to make more efficient servers too early? Servers aren't the problem. I think to William's point, latency is the big problem. And it's a problem, Sharky, to your comment, for any game, right? Like if you tap on a controller on your keyboard and a second or two later your guy jumps, I mean, it's not a good experience, regardless if the game is competitive or not. To Cam's point, anything requiring precision is unplayable. Sharky says Google has a horrible track record for supporting their products and initiatives. Yeah, I mean, Sharky, I don't even know what PAX I said it at, 2017 or something, 2018, where I said Stadia was dead on arrival. Sharky says that might change with Starlink in the next few years. Possibly, Sharky. From what I know of Starlink, I think Elon was saying they could get latency over the next few years down to 20 milliseconds, which would still be it's just still too much latency to make cloud gaming work effectively. Yes, that's fast. Like it's 5G kind of fast. So 5G is also a similar solution, but it's still like every input needs 20 milliseconds each way, right? Like it starts to add up and games become unplayable. All right, guys, let's move on here. Let's talk about Ninja. Okay, Ninja in the news, not willingly at least. This was a comment from the CEO of FaZe Clan, and I will just read the comment. He said, "Ninja is not at the cutting edge of the gaming movement." And the article is, I mean, it doesn't go much beyond that Ninja has done very well and been very successful. I will quote him again. Lee Trink, this is the CEO of FaZe Clan, says, "I would say he's the pioneer of the gaming movement. I often call him the Neil Armstrong of gaming. He was the first household name in gaming. Ninja is still massive, but I would say, he is not kind of on the cutting edge of the gaming movement at this point." How do you guys feel about the shots fired at Ninja from FaZe? Or do you even see these as shots fired?
Oh man,
I have to throw in a fun story here, William. Come on.
I'm full of hot takes tonight, guys.
What
do you want me to tell you?
Let's go.
What do we tell you?
Come on.
Lay it all out. Let's go.
First of all, I don't think, and I really believe this, anytime you're in a news cycle, it's kind of good news, right? So the fact that these guys are sort of duking it out and saying, oh, they're not as big of a deal as they think they are, like, whatever, they're in the news cycle. You know what I mean? Like, it's a bit like, if you're not that big of a deal, people wouldn't be saying you're not that big of a deal, like it's, so I start with that. I think it's a little bit of, this is how it operates. Sometimes a little bit of hate and shade that gets thrown is sometimes strategic to kind of get your brand in the mix and start conversations. That's the first thing. The second thing I'd say is like, and I mean this as gently as I can, but like, what do you what more do you want from a streamer and a personality? Like, first of all, no celebrity consistently remains at the peak of their fame for forever. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's career, even Harrison Ford's career has ebbs and flows, like, so
Tom Cruise. No.
Tom Cruise, sure. Is it true that Ninja right now is as popular as he was when he was in the Fortnite commercial, the Super Bowl or the Super Bowl commercial? Probably not, right? Is he still one of the most important, well-known, and recognized gaming influencers who is arguably the poster child for streaming? Absolutely, right? And so, like, again, I mean, it's like, yeah, you can say that you can criticize him all you want, but it rings a little hollow to me because for all intents and purposes, he rightly or wrongly, but certainly through a lot of talent on his own part, created himself as the mascot for modern gaming. And I don't think you just get to take that away from somebody because they're maybe looking a little bit passé because they still play Fortnite and the game of the month is, Phantasmagoria or whatever,
Does anyone think, including you, William, that Ninja is any less marketable or bankable today? In other words, will he draw smaller numbers from advertisers or brands? Like, do any of you believe that at least that is true or no?
Yeah, no, I do. I think that 100% to William's point, he is an absolute pioneer, and I think his brand remains as strong as it was years ago. In terms of monetary potential, like for sponsorships, I think because he's a little bit, we'll say seasoned, I think that potential is down a little bit. However, his influence among all of his followers and subscribers, it's unquestionable. I mean, for FaZe to write or to have this in the news about him, I agree. It's like good for him that he's still making headlines. Like I hope that stays true long into the future. I see a headline today and it's about his wife. I didn't even know he had a wife that was connected to him in the space. I didn't even know that. I learned that today.
She made him.
His wife
She made
is-
him. Yeah.
I had no
yeah.
idea. I had no idea. I had no idea that it was his wife.
Yeah.
So what was the question? But yeah, no, I think he's going to remain as influential as he was, and I think that all of the followers that he gained are going to stay extremely loyal to him. And I think that he has had, and maybe I haven't read this article, but if it's alluding to some of his strongly opinionated comments that can be sometimes a little bit aggressive towards certain people or certain games or whatever. I get that, but good for him to be bold and to actually speak out and not just want to make everyone happy. I see it as a more authentic feel. And I think if anything, he's only strengthening the relationship he has with the people that love and follow him.
Lindsay, the patron saint of this podcast, Tom Hanks, has has stayed relevant for many, many years.
Right.
His entire career potentially here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Ninja has this kind of longevity in him?
Yeah, really.
As an influencer, really, right? Like as someone bankable.
Yeah, as a brand, the
as a
Ninja brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked that Tom Cruise comparison actually, because Tom Cruise in 20 years is still going to be making Mission Impossible movies, and they're still going to be doing numbers at the box office. No matter how many times we all pretend like we're tired of Mission Impossible and Tom Cruise. And that, to me, is what this kind of feels like.
We're
Go ahead,
not,
William.
though, Lindsay. We're not tired of Mission Impossible and Tom Cruise. I don't know.
Listen,
I don't know
the
what
we
I don't know
encompasses a lot of
we're
views.
tired of it.
So
the nuclear protocol codes have been stolen, Lindsay. Somebody has to get them back. And only one agent is brave enough to go rogue for his country.
Ah, yes. Agent Ethan Hawke. Or I just said his name wrong and now I've lost it. Anyways, the point is, I think that anything he touches, even if people are quote unquote tired of him, they'll still go look at it. And then he also has a dedicated fan base of people who are never tired of him and still love him. So I at first thought, oh, maybe, it has to be very specific products that he endorses or very specific sponsorships or very specific events or whatever. But I think the reality of it is, if Ninja's doing an event, people will either be there because they love Ninja or be there because they now trust Ninja to do something interesting and relevant to gaming and they like gaming. So I think that he might be not on the cutting edge per se, but he's still a very powerful and influential figure in the space.
He's also still a very good talented gamer. Like, he's been playing Valorant.
Yeah.
He's very good, right? The guy is not,
Well,
you know,
the big thing we're missing about Ninja is who here could be on an AB. Like, think of the top streamers and who could be on an ABC sitcom, like,
Right.
and meaningfully anchor it, right? Like meaning, like,
Dr.
I'm
Disrespect.
sorry, guys,
The Doc.
Tfue is not
The
the Doc, maybe, but Paul, that's you and me and our love of the brand and the character. And let's be
Yeah.
honest, he has a lot of baggage now that didn't exist previously.
True.
I don't want to. By the way, my endorsement of the Doc has nothing to do with endorsing any of that stuff, right? I like the idea that he plays a character, and I think more people need to do that in esports today. But like, no, they couldn't. I look, and this is no discredits these people; they're incredibly influential, but they could not. I don't think Tfue could anchor an ABC News sitcom, and our favorite blue-haired warrior could do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I mean, even something stupid is stupid, by the way, is the blue hair. Like, even it's like, let's be honest, it's identifiable that he
memorable
has traits, characteristics. It's done, and I believe it's done with purpose. I don't think he's sticking with blue hair because he thinks it's 100% the best and only way he should look. I think it's a smart marketing decision to brand himself, and that's the other reason why I don't like the criticism so much of our favorite blue-haired warrior, because, like, he's just so well managed as a property. Like, I just, like, independent of his personality and his gaming skills, he's well managed as a property. So you can't, like, I almost feel like it's unfair to criticize him, because I truly feel it's an asset that is being maximized,
I just want to read some of these comments here. Sharky says he's nothing more than a marketing tool now. I mean, he's always been a brand, right? And that's the strength that, in some ways, the Ninja brand transcends even the human being or the gamer that he was. Ninja has definitely taken a step back to be with his family. Totally reasonable decision. Yeah, I mean, he made a lot of money with the whole Mixer shutdown or going to Mixer and then leaving Mixer. Made a lot of money in a very short period of time. So no question, he may want to take a step back. Martin says, hardly a shot fired, but I'd agree with his comment. Christian says,
I just wanted to go back to that because I didn't feel like this was, I felt like this was a little bit sensationalized. Like, his full comment was, it started off a little sharp, but it ended with, he's one of the greatest figures in gaming.
Yeah, he
like,
called him the Neil Armstrong of gaming.
Right, like, I don't think,
he's not at the cutting edge. Now, hold on.
Right.
My take on this is frankly that I think there's some irony that this is coming from FaZe Clan, which I also think is not at the cutting edge of the gaming movement, right? To me, FaZe Clan is, and I had this conversation with someone today, call it the 3 ages of esports. They had esports 1.0, very early stages, very niche industry, sort of 2000 to 2014 kind of thing. And then you had this sort of esports 2.0, 2014 to 2019 or 2020, where it's like massive hype, massive valuations, teams spending zillions, no revenue. Like, it's all the sort of this kids playing with investor money. And then now, sort of, I think as the industry is starting to mature, you're seeing more real businesses setting up, public companies, all kinds of good things happening around gaming. And I would argue FaZe is from sort of this old, like, let's raise tons of venture money, we make no revenue, we sell hoodies, like, and I would argue they're not really as relevant anymore from a gaming industry standpoint. And what they're accusing Ninja of, they're sort of guilty of themselves. They're not at the cutting edge. They don't do anything really at the cutting edge anymore. Everyone's doing content now. Everyone's selling hoodies now. Even we are. The businessofesports.com. Go buy a Business of Esports hoodie. And so, like, there's nothing really cutting edge about FaZe. And I think there's some irony in that they're accusing Ninja of the same thing they're guilty of. That's my take on this. I think maybe they don't recognize that. That makes me laugh a bit. Christian says, I'd imagine companies by now are more knowledgeable to where they can look to other influencers besides Ninja. True, Christian, but I think a lot of people see the value in Ninja in terms of his family-friendly brand, his reach. Like, there's not many influencers who can touch him still in the space. So yes, they could reach out to others. There are others, but I think Ninja does bring something unique to the table. Sharky says FaZe is an esports org, so they're probably annoyed he's never going back to competing professionally again. I wouldn't rule it out. I think he has ambition in Valorant. I wouldn't not rule it out. Christian says if he's got a good agent, he can stay relevant. Look at Steph Curry, even when he's not winning titles. Christian, I would argue he has the best agent. It's his wife. And she has done an incredible job with his brand, a really spectacular job with his brand.
I cannot say enough good things about how I really mean it. I at some point, I mean, Paul, we should file this away for things to write about,
It's true.
for future, but like just analyzing the top 10 major decisions that Tyler has. It's Tyler, right? That's his real name.
Yeah.
I'm going to start calling him Tyler. So it sounds
Tyler
like
Blevins.
I have
Tyler
more of a
Blevins, yeah.
relationship that Tyler has made.
Tyler, Ty.
The tie is made. The tie is made. Yeah, it's just it would be a font of how to be a successful, to make a successful play in esports as a personality today. Because again, a lot of the stuff that's doing it's not, and I really believe this, it's not accidental that he's had some streamers. You do look at and you're a bit like, wow, you definitely got which is probably unfair, and I just don't appreciate what they're doing, but. He is definitely one where the decisions appear purposeful, they appear consistent, and they reinforce a very clear vision of a brand. And the fact that his brand is sort of all-encompassing, big tent, and slightly generic is also very intentional. It's not the lack of a brand, it's a well-crafted, broad brand.
Let me just, let me build on this, William. The other irony of this, I guarantee, and I don't know the exact numbers, I guarantee Ninja has outsold FaZe on the apparel front. With his Target collaboration, with his Ninja hoodies. I think he's probably blowing FaZe out of the water. I think from a pure revenue standpoint, the Ninja brand most likely generates more revenue than FaZe does. So it's like, it's a weird attack. It's not really an attack, but it's kind of a weird thing for FaZe to go after Ninja in my mind. Greg says all about the Toms, Hanks, Cruz, and Brady. If we ever need a name for a new show, Greg, that's going to be it. It's kind of true. We do come back to those three a lot. Cam says, great week for FaZe. That's true. They did not have a good week. They also had this sort of very public falling out with Cloaksy, which was like a repeat of the whole Tfue situation, like how they've mismanaged their players internally and done all these horrible sort of contracts with them. Cam says, thanks for reminding, time to buy some merch. Thank you, Cam. It's always time to buy merch. And Chris says, haven't seen any other esports personalities on The Masked Singer. I mean, Chris.
Yeah, he did Old Town Road.
But that, like, I love this comment because it kind of sums it up, right? And to the points all three of you made, it's like he's the only one really who can cross over. And to William's point, he's the only one that could, could anchor a show on ABC, right? That's the reality. He's the only one who has that pull. All right, guys, we want to do. Probably one last story here. What do you guys want to do? Do we want to talk about, I'll leave it up to you guys. We want to talk about Dr. Disrespect thinking Valorant will be the big esports game of the future. I don't know how much there is to talk about there. Gray Television investing $40 million into Envy Gaming. Which one of those two interests you guys? Because I want to leave a few minutes to talk about the bubble thing. We can also talk about Thorin stepping down from Flashpoint, because I think the implication there was Flashpoint's going in the wrong direction. I
want to do the Valorant one just quickly because it's a short one. Let's do Valorant.
It's like, I know what William wants to do.
Sorry, guys. Am I bulling a China?
No, it's great.
I would like to do Valorant.
Chris says, cool. Looks like I'm not getting banned this week. Chris, we love you. Question: Envy Gaming Series C. How many series does an esports org really need? Look, I think I don't know if you guys have thoughts on this. I have thoughts on this. Anyone want to jump in on this?
Go, Paul. Tell us your thoughts on this.
I wanted to cover this because I wanted to hear what you had to say.
There's no amount of rounds that an esports org really needs, right? The question is, what is the total sum of cash that the average esports org needs to raise to get to profitability or some kind of self-sustaining state? And so I like, they could raise 20 rounds for all I care. If What really matters in my mind is what is the total amount of money raised. When I see Envy raising 40, like, to me, we've already eclipsed what I think should be the total amount of cash going into these teams based on where their revenue is, based on the monetization struggles, based on the outcomes, based on all these things. So, Chris, it's a bad answer to your question. There's no number of rounds that an esports org really needs. It's what is the right number that an esports org needs to raise to get to some profitability. And I think everyone's playing a little loose and fast on the esports org side right now in terms of spending. I don't know if you guys had different thoughts.
I'll just say, like, it's not inherently bad to have late series rounds. In fact, often it's a good sign for a business. It means that it's high potential and people want to keep it private. And people are so desperate to give it money that they don't need to, so, I mean, like you can have,
with the asterisk that as long as the valuations are increasing, right? Because sometimes they do raise down rounds.
But what I would say is it's not like a mark of shame to be at a series D or E or F financing, because in fact, those are often really good signs. Again, with Paul's caveat and everything. So it's sort of the question of how much do these, because at some point you don't hear of companies at Series Z financing, right? Like, I'm not aware of a Series Z that's happened, in recent memory, right? So there is this question of how long does the financing chain run for? I mean, sports teams still are privately managed, and in some sense, most of them, right, privately owned and managed, and in some sense, that's effectively what's happening, consortium-led private rounds here. So I take the question, and it goes back to all of our standard comments about the space and what's happening, but I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with these guys being at a Series C. In fact, I think it's probably a good thing.
Chris says, fair assessment. Sharky says, isn't what you're describing potentially feeding a bubble? Okay, let's talk about the bubble. Since Sharky brought it up again here.
Oh, is this the big thing you want to talk about, the bubble?
No, is there a bubble?
No.
It's a question I hear so many times, right? Like, a lot.
No, no. I mean, there's a lot of there's a couple things going on, right? There's a ton of interest in the space. The interest is deserved and the interest is late. And I said this on, I think, our podcast today, but I really believe this is, all of a sudden there's a ton of interest in gaming. We're like, whoa, what's going on here? This is weird. It's not. It should have been the norm for a long time. If you look at how large gaming is an entertainment medium and how important it is to most people's life experiences today, the business sector and traditional mediums were late getting back to gaming. So let's start there. It's not a bubble. There's a lot of attention around it, but it's deserved and it was late coming. It is probably true that when there's a lot of attention on a space and it's a new space, and this is a new space, guys, let's be honest, and there's lots of areas of the space that could grow and be worth a lot, it probably is true that, human nature feeds some areas to be hotter than others of the space, right? So I definitely think it's true that there could be overvaluation within certain sectors of esports, right? It's just naturally how things work, right? But I don't think in any means the esports space is a bubble. And I kind of take issue when people describe that, because this is probably a future for how humans compete, and competition is fundamental to human nature. So yes. And by the way, I often think about this, with house purchasing, right? You can overpay for a house and feel really dumb for the first 5 years, and 30 years later, not care at all. It's the best investment you've ever made. You know what I mean? In these rapidly rising markets, even overpaying even if overpaying isn't necessarily overpaying if your payout period is long enough. And I would hope people investing in esports today and looking at esports have long payout periods, because they see the space as not something that's going to be, flash in the pan, but a fundamental linchpin of how we're going to evolve as a society. So I don't know. I mean, is that too gung ho, rah rah?
No, I mean, I totally agree. Lindsay or Victoria, feel free to chime in.
If you want to compare directly to the .com bubble, there's companies that are actually making profits and actually have business strategies. So I think just looking at simple P&L statements will tell you that there's certainly not the same bubble as there was in the early 2000s. I also just think that there's a lot of bad investments out there, and that's kind of true of any industry. But there's certainly a lot of good and growing investments as well. So parsing that out is how people make money.
Yeah, like you can lose money on like you can invest in businesses that won't work, but that is not
That's
and
true
there are probably
everywhere.
businesses who succeed at, they have a great pitch deck or whatever, and they succeed at raising money at valuations far above what they should have, right? That's totally fine. That's totally
Yeah.
fine. That's
Very
nothing to do
normal.
with the space itself being weak or damaged,
Victoria,
Yeah.
how do you think about the bubble question?
I completely agree. So, first and foremost, no, I don't believe that there's a bubble. What I do believe is that, like any other successful industry, there's going to be overvaluations within certain segments. But as a whole, definitely not. I completely agree with both William and Lindsay's points. I think it's going to be a way of the future no matter what. I think it's inevitable. But again, much like any industry, there's going to be poor investments, there's going to be huge flops. We've already seen many. But as a whole space, where I think I don't think it's a bubble at all. I don't think there's a chance of a burst here.
I agree with you guys. Matthew says, I'm a high school teacher and esports are growing rapidly in popularity as school districts are creating esports teams. Matthew, no question, right? And this is the, again, part of the core of my thesis, which is the demographics are working in gaming's favor, right? When the average 12-year-old would rather play Fortnite than play soccer, when that kid is 20, he's still going to be a gamer. And so like all the demographics are working in the industry's favor. The gaming being the biggest industry on the planet, in my mind, is inevitable. We're talking about an industry that will be worth trillions, not billions, trillions with an S. And so like haven't even scratched the surface of the potential here. We're still, everyone I think agreed, 20 years away from Ready Player One, and we all know Ready Player One future means an industry worth trillions. And so we're going to grow into that. So there's tons of potential, tons of opportunity. The challenge always is, if you're an investor, how do you navigate the opportunities? That's tricky. And I think there's a lot of dumb money that's come into the space that doesn't really know how to navigate, or has maybe wrongly chosen not to partner with someone in terms of how to navigate the space. That's one. Two, I think the bubbles, if there are any, are very localized. And I will go one step further than you guys, which I think all of you agreed there were sort of bubbles that are localized maybe to certain sectors, like, or certain pieces, like teams, for example. I would argue the bubbles are even more localized than that, like right down to the individual company, right? I think some companies are overvalued and for whatever reason, and I think some are way undervalued for whatever reason. The trick to being successful right now is where you put your time, where you put your resources, where you put your dollars, and navigating that. But the amount of available opportunity is bigger than in any other industry on the planet. So it's easier to be right in gaming right now, but it doesn't mean that it's just obvious and you can throw money anywhere at any valuation and be successful. Chris says team no bubble. I love that. That's gonna make a shirt like that. Sharky says fair enough. Christian, I used to manage a soccer complex. The kids waiting would be on their phones playing Fortnite. So true. Well, they I mean, if this is not anecdotal evidence of gaming's inevitable dominance, I don't know what is. Sharky says, can you at some point talk about ways to get directly involved in the space? Sharky, I don't know. I would, if you want to reach out, that's a sort of a conversation I'm happy to take offline. And I'm sure anyone, I'll speak for you guys, is happy to take offline. So I think if you reach out to any of us on LinkedIn, happy to sort of have that discussion, unless you want to ask about sort of specific opportunities here. Like this, is franchising for esports a good or bad idea right now? If not now, then how about down the road?
Sharky coming in with the hot questions tonight.
Yeah.
Sharky, you have to listen to the last 120 podcast episodes because I think all your questions will be answered.
Yeah, these are hot topics. Or read the book of esports. That's another one where there's a whole chapter on franchising that basically lays it out.
Short answer, Sharky. Sorry, I'll because I want to get to this Dr. Disrespect article. Is
do
Activision Blizzard League franchises no good? Riot franchises good. There you go. That's the answer. Cam says not in COD Overwatch. Matthew says Do you have a thought on Bally's Casino offering $100 million for Allied Esports? Allied would have to cancel their previous agreed upon sale for World Poker Tour. Matthew,
Listen to the podcast.
the podcast tomorrow, we talk about this exact story. William and I, with a great guest, Kevin Wright, the CEO of GameSquare, or the president of GameSquare, I should say, talk about this Bally's offer very in great detail. The short of it, William, correct me if I'm wrong, I'll give a bit of a summary here. The short of it is, I think we all agreed Bally's was a good buyer here, and it indicated some value for the esports assets, which was not reflected in the Element Partners offer, where they just wanted the World Poker Tour. So I think we were all a big fan of this offer. I think if any deal closes, and it's not clear any of them will, this is the one that does. The question will be, what do they do with the esports assets? That's the question, I think. And we explore that a little bit on the podcast, which will drop tomorrow. So it's going to definitely go check it out. Sharky says, probably going to buy it now. Sharky, you should have bought it we've been on the air now an hour and a half. You should have bought it an hour ago. Everyone, please go buy the Book of Esports on Amazon. It is by far the best book in the space.
You are so good at simultaneously pumping William up and also alienating potential customers.
What do you mean?
It's amazing.
I love him like a brother, so I treat him like a brother. I have to poke fun sometimes, but I have to tell everyone how great he is. No? Isn't that how brothers
I meant
work?
alienating customers. Like,
How do I
go buy
alienate
William's
customers?
book. I'm gonna go buy it. Well, you should have bought it an hour ago.
I said he should have bought it an hour ago. How is that
very flattering? It's a great book. bookofesports.com, Amazon. Check it out. You'll love it. I promise. And if you do like it, please 5-star review. It really helps. I am serious about that. I'm not trying to be facetious. Like, it's what gets the book discovered is the customer reviews. But all that being said, I do think we should do this last article on the doc. Because I'm excited to do it. Yeah.
Let me bring it up here. Hang on. All right, here we go. So this was from Dexerto.com, and the headline was, Dr. Disrespect thinks Valorant will be the big esports game of the future. The video is never played correctly here. I will just say that in that video, he says it's going to continue to get big. People are taking notice. This is when all the hype comes in. There's just going to be so much momentum. He says, I love Valorant. I do really like the game. Right now, the way I look at the entire esports landscape, I think Valorant is kind of the esports game of the future. I mean, the doc, for those of you who don't know, had a past in level design, like map design. He actually built, I think it was Advanced Warfare, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare maps, and maybe a few of the other COD games. But so like, he's a person who's not just a personality on Twitch. He has a deep understanding of like game design, level design, etc. So this is an interesting take, both from him as an influencer and him as, Dr. Disrespect, the game or level designer in a previous life. Do you guys think this has any bearing? Like, first of all, does anyone here think he's wrong? Is Valorant going to be the biggest esport going forward? Yes or no?
This is a little bit of like a frustrating, because this would be like me predicting, like, William predicts it's going to get hot in the summer, like
you
like
think it's just so obvious?
Yeah, like the title is obviously, it's by Riot Games. It's obviously growing incredibly quickly, right? And, to top all of that off, right? Like, it's not like he's making these predictions pre-launch before people have played it. Like, it's a known popular game that he's playing on his stream. I mean, I don't understand what I don't, it's not that brave of a prediction to make. That being said, I guess what you can say is interesting about it is, he's basically putting this above every other shooter, which is maybe that in a world where CSGO still has hard traction, where Overwatch is still a thing, where Call of Duty is still a massive, like, him sort of saying this is the marquee forward first shooter out of everything he could choose to put on a pedestal. And I'm Call of Duty might be coming up pretty quick, for example, as an alternative there. I think it's bold, but again, I mean, it's like the reality is Riot Games doing this, and they've proven they know how to activate competitive games properties. It's not that it's not like nobody saw this coming. It's not like we're all here like, Valorant. If only we'd known. You know what I mean?
If only Riot gave us a clue that they were good at esports.
I know. If only there'd been some data to suggest that their titles are popular with the competitive gaming demographic.
Okay. Can I ask then a tougher question?
Yeah.
Let me put my cynical hat on. Okay. Well, Cam asked a question. With Cam, I'm going to get to your question, but let me put my cynic hat on. Okay. Is Riot paying the doc to play the game, to push the game? Because this is not unknown in the gaming world, right? Like publishers pay influencers all the time to stream their games. I don't know if that's how it started with the doc. Is some of that coming from there, or is this just pure unadulterated, doc opinion?
I would hope not. I mean, you follow him pretty closely. Does he say stuff? Has he said stuff previously that looks a little bit paid? Because I haven't gotten that impression.
Yeah,
yet.
I mean, yeah, he's sponsored by Mountain Dew or something.
Oh well,
right?
That's known. Like it's disclosed. Like I don't think so. I think I would think that it's authentic. I mean, that's my impression, but now you have me thinking. Don't do that.
Lindsay, do you think this is? Do you think Riot is paying the doc as an influencer, as a streamer?
I would be very surprised if that were true. I mean, the reality of the situation is Riot already has one of the best esports in the world, and I'm not necessarily surprised that after taking 10 years to launch a new game that it's really been hitting. And I think that the doc generally has a good idea about what makes a good game and what doesn't, and he's been very outspoken on various things in the past, so I'm not surprised that he's placing a bet on this one.
Yeah, I don't think he would do it. I don't think that he would tarnish his I don't know, his image like that.
It would have to be a huge payout. And why would Riot do that when they're Riot?
No,
it's not worth it.
Well, hold on. Big publishers still pay influencers. Like just being a big publisher doesn't mean you don't pay influencers to play and stream your game.
No, that's different. That's totally different.
Yeah.
This is they're saying pass this off as your own opinion. That makes them look so stupid if that ever got leaked.
Okay.
I don't think it would happen.
I agree with that.
Victoria. It's not worth the risk for either of them. For Riot or for the doc. It's not worth it for either of them.
But
frankly, Riot doesn't need it. Sorry, William. Go ahead.
Let's say it is. The more interesting question here is not necessarily being. The question is, what does he have planned in Valorant? That's how I would
allude to that, right? William, remember he alluded to him doing something on the team side. Is this potentially? It's a great point.
That's what I think is going on here. Is this isn't Riot? This is him seeding his thoughts on Valorant, his excitement for the space in preparation for something else. So I would not read this at all as Riot's paying this guy to. It's not. I don't think that's how they operate to start with. Riot as a publisher, but also it is. People point out this would just be a very weird way to go about it, even if they were going to. But it does seem to me like it's a precursor to doc activating something in the space, and so I would pay a close eye for other breadcrumbs here.
Okay, hold on. Let me put a better question on the table. Then I've refined my tinfoil hat theory here. Okay, he's talking to Riot. He wants to do a team. Okay, and so he's maybe got an investor group behind him to go buy a Valorant spot, right? Like a Valorant franchise. And part of the deal with Riot is obviously, as a team owner, he's going to be bullish on the game, but he has to leverage his celebrity maybe for a cut in the cost of the franchise spot or some. I don't know, so where there's a deal between Riot that's different than what other owners are getting because he's a massive celebrity and a massive influencer. Is that possible?
Wouldn't the exposure of his plans to be involved speak enough to that? Do you kind of know what I mean?
But he's not
like he doesn't need to put a statement out like this. He could just once he gets that involvement, it's going to speak for itself and his support of the game.
Yes, but I think his celebrity could supercharge the whole thing, right? If I'm
in the meantime, you mean before
and after, Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if we're believing that this is part of a master plan to have a Valorant franchise under his brand, under his name, even if he has other investors backing him, which he might, right? That will he get special treatment from Riot if he does things like this?
I don't know. It just I don't
No one,
I
no
don't
one
like I
buying my
don't
theory. All right.
I'm not sorry. I see your point 100%, and I agree to William's point that he probably has something up his sleeve. I just don't think for this instance that I just don't believe that there was any sort of under the table deal here. But I don't know.
Okay, I got lots of comments to catch up on. Christian says I just finished it this week. Don't find it salesy. William's book it's not salesy at all. It's
just
it's
go
an
5-star
incredible
review. I'll
reference.
be salesy about that. If you finished it, drop it in. It helps. Please. I mean it, Christian. Seriously.
Greg says, and William will read you the book on Audible. Yes, that's true.
Sound just like this.
Christian says, is there more to this than influencer marketing? I mean, I think Christian, the conclusion has been this is not even influencer marketing. This is just Doc, talking about whatever he thinks. And there's no marketing here at all. Sharky says, what's his reasoning based off of? Sharky, I don't think he gave a reasoning other than he thinks it's a really good game. And that I think in the article it also mentions he likes the maps. He has high expectations for the next map. And that their new agent is good and well balanced and things like that. Cam says, will Valorant be in the top 3 in 5 years? Curious to go around. Will Valorant be in the top 3 in 5 years?
Top 3 is bold.
You mean in terms of total market, in terms of like top 3 by, I'm guessing this is aggregate users, right? Like AMU or something like.
Yeah, we'd have to define, is it dollars? Is it total audience? Is it, right? Like there's a lot of ways
really matters, Cam, because I think the shooter space is fundamentally fractured, unlike some other spaces. And so I think even a massive success in shooters is somewhat curtailed by the fact that I don't see a single, and I could be wrong, but if you look at my Omens framework from the book, I don't see a single shooter capable of owning its genre. I just don't. And a simple reason for that is the skills across title are too fungible. If you're good at one shooter, you're probably going to be good at other ones. You'll obviously be better at some than others, but aiming is such a core mechanic and it's so transferable. So there's always the switching costs of the space are always going to be relatively low versus other esports. Sorry, just a simple example, but
I will just add one other little anecdotal piece to William's comment, which is Valorant has a shot because it's the only game he and I have played together in the last month. If that means anything, there you go. It's the only one that William and I have played together. Sharky says he'd have to state if he is, right? It would be illegal not to. I'm not a lawyer, Sharky. I don't know if anyone knows the legality of that. Martin says, no way Doc was paid to say that. Chris says gamers expect #ad. Sharky says, he sells out to Call of Duty, so I don't know about his intuition. Sharky is also very critical of Call of Duty, to be honest. Very, very critical. And Call of Duty, I think management has sort of abandoned him. He complains a lot about it quite frequently. Bodrich says he might just be close to his announcement and wants to build up the hype. Bodrich, I think, you guys all made that point, and I tend to agree. Chris says top 3 NA, not global. Interesting. William, are you more convinced of that?
Yeah, I actually think Chris has, by the way, I want to shout out to Chris. Chris has some excellent comments consistently. This one I'm much more behind, that simple nuance, because I would even phrase this as top 3 some regions, not others. It's just the market's too fragmented in shooters. And I'd like to be wrong. I think it's better for gaming if a single game wins its genre. I really do. I think it's better. I think we want to look for more traditional market balances that are 60-30, 10, right? Like one game has 60% share, one game has 30% share, one game, which is Heroes of the Storm, has 10% share of the MOBA space. Maybe, please. But but I don't think I think I'm right here that it's, yeah, but great comment, Chris. Great comment.
Cam says, this is a great comment as well. Top 5 esports, to Doc's point in the article. That is actually what Doc did say, right? That it would be a top 5 title. And maybe you guys agree there more. Chris says CS:GO dying, COD still stagnant, Overwatch League dead. Seems like Valorant has a shot. Yeah, Chris, I'm much more bullish on Valorant these days, for those reasons, because I do think other shooters are suffering. William, what were you going to say? Sorry.
Well, I mean, but even right in Chris's comment is the challenge of shooters, right? Is look at that churn. Look at that churn.
True,
right?
and that's not even half of them, right? There's there's PUBG and there's Fortnite
Apex,
and there's
Fortnite.
Apex and
it really is that the genre mechanically has some properties that make it a tricky one to defend a crown in. I'm not saying it's not possible. I think innovation can get you there. I actually think Fortnite is still the best example of how you innovate the shooting genre to make it difficult. Like the building mechanic in Fortnite, hate it all you want. I think it's a real way that it raises the skill, and it's really unique to that game. But, neither here nor there, guys.
Quick question. Do we know anything about the potential of Valorant to come to console?
I think I saw something from the devs saying they're not focused on that at all. I think there was a question around it coming to mobile too, and they're very much PC focused right now. As
I
they
keep
should
seeing
be.
them teasing it, or not them, but I keep seeing articles about the potential of it coming. But
that would be the death of the competitive scene for Valorant, I think, because then they run into all the same
not if the aim
cross-platform.
is strong enough, Paul.
Yeah, that's
if they just raise the aim
that's
assist
working
a whole
so
lot,
well
it'll be
for
fine.
Apex Esports. That's it.
It'll be fine if they aim assist it up.
We'll start playing on consoles, William. Is that it?
I'll be good at it.
You're not bad. Don't. I was impressed.
What do you mean? I'm terrible. I'm
You're
terrible.
not terrible. You were worse at Hyperscape when we played that.
Okay, that game I was terrible at. I'll be the first to say that I was truly terrible at Hyperscape.
But you were much better at Valorant, especially towards after you got into the groove.
Yeah. The thing about Valorant is, I hate to say this is such an unfair thing to the game, but the secret to doing Valorant is don't have fun. Like all the fun things you want to do, like take the risky shot, blitz the room with the shotgun, like that's just literally the best advice I can give you to get better at Valorant is don't have fun. The correct thing is move slowly, probably crouch, check your sight lines, stay in the corner.
That's it. Just watch one angle for the next 3 minutes.
Like, I don't know what to tell you guys. Like, the secret to getting good at Valorant is don't but that's also the secret to success, right? It's play to win. You have to be playing to win, consistently.
Christian says, don't fix it if it ain't broke. Yeah, I think they're on a good roll right now. Striker says console developers to start adding gyro aiming functionality. I mean, there's a lot they would have to do to make it competitive on console, and then you run into all kinds of balancing issues, and you need aim assist so that console players can play with PC players. Do you keep the player bases separate? What does that mean for the competitive scene? Like, look, League has never come to console, and it's done just fine, right? So, I think they've got a good playbook with League that they can really follow for Valorant and be very successful. Martin says Valorant to console vomits.
Guys, don't beat up.
That's how I feel, Martin. That's how I feel.
I think I'm the only console player on the show, and I get picked on every week. Vomits. Yep, I hear it. I'm so jealous. I haven't played Valorant yet, and I'm dying to play, and I can't.
Okay, well,
head to businessofesports.shop and go pick yourself up a Gamers Against Aim Assist t-shirt and represent that PC pride. All right.
Actually, that's a good transition, though, Victoria. What have you been playing this week, if it's not Valorant?
Look at this.
Well, I'm going to get picked on again. I'm heavy into Warzone, and it's their 1-year anniversary, so that can be my excuse. But I was playing Cold War, and now I'm back over to Warzone, and I'm loving it.
Warzone's such a success, too. Like, I don't know. I saw some of the numbers around their anniversary stuff, and although Victoria, I think you were complaining about their whole what was it, the St. Patrick's Day event?
Oh yeah, I was complaining a little bit. I just think it's lame. I think it's so lame. I think that, and Paul, you said that
they holiday themed cosmetics. Is that it?
I do. I do, but not for Call of Duty. I like it more for more kid-friendly, more artistic, more, I don't know. Call of Duty is more like serious. Is that fair to say? Serious isn't the right
Okay, but how
word.
they need to make money? Come on,
They-
it's Activision
I just think
Blizzard
they can
here.
be more
need-
creative. What was it called? So for their St. Patrick's Day event, they're renaming the guns to like the Wee Lad assault rifle. Like, I just think it's so cheesy.
It's cheesy,
Yeah,
but it's
that's
kind
what
of
makes
funny.
it awesome.
Oh man.
I live for the cheese.
Or like even if it was just they did like every single gun was green. That's fun. It's small and it's cool. Everyone has a green gun, but like just a lot of them like picking up shamrocks. Like it was just too try hard. I didn't nope. It's a no for me.
All right, Victoria.
Lindsay, how about you?
So much Mario Party. Every
Really?
night
Oh
is
yeah,
Mario Party.
isn't today Mario Day? Isn't yeah, it's today,
Oh,
March
that
10th.
makes me feel I should play Mario.
It's
Oh.
Mario Day today. Happy Mario Day, everyone.
Wow, in the same week as International Women's Week. All of my favorite people. Women and Italian plumbers. The only two genders. Anyways, no, it's been super fun. Household's been playing it. We love it.
William, how about you?
You know, I've been really kind of flitting around. You know, I haven't had a lot of time to game, but I've been playing a lot. So just transparent, playing a lot of Neo 2. Don't make fun of me for it, but I like these sort of I'm a big Dark Souls fan. I'll play every Souls-like game. I usually beat them. I like these sort of punishing single player skill-based games. The fact that there's a samurai aesthetic on it is just icing on the cake. I would not recommend it aggressively to other people. Like it's a very systems heavy, you know, like genre specific game, but I really like, I've been playing that. Been playing some Valorant, actually. Really like Valorant, trying to work on my skills there, follow the doc's advice. And I've also been playing a tiny bit of Heroes of the Storm, but not as much as I would have liked. So I need to, but I am actually, this is a great moment to shout out to the chat. I am looking to add a new game to the rotation. So if there's something you think I should play that I haven't, let me know, you know?
Well, I see a couple of suggestions here, William. Cam says, Valheim has my entire heart.
Yeah, but Valheim, I'm there for Valheim, and it does have my heart too. But I'll tell you why I'm not playing Valheim. Because I'm waiting on the server invite from Paul. Like,
William, I promise you we're going to play it when the new content comes out. The problem is we beat all the other content. So no one's playing it.
Okay, Paul. Okay, Paul. Is that what you say? Well, we'll have you over the next. This is literally the game's equivalent over. Well, oh, sorry, bro. We'll have you over next time.
No, I
don't know how we forgot to invite you to that party, man. Totally. We'll get you on the next. This is the game's equivalent of that. I'm just teasing. I'm giving you a hard time.
The live stream can hold me to it. You will see. I will even get footage, which I will show on the live stream of you and I playing Valheim together.
That would be incredible. That would be incredible. You should call it the donation, and it should just be footage of you dropping used gear.
All the gear.
Yep.
Chris says,
I would definitely watch that, by the way. I'm sure the commentary would be very good.
Maybe we should stream it, William, if we do that. We got it. Maybe that'll be the first game stream. Chris says Loop Hero, try it. I've never even heard of Loop Hero. Do you guys know this game? William, that's your suggestion. There you go.
Yeah, I have heard of Loop Hero, but I have not played it. And this is actually very interesting to me. It's that good, Chris?
While Chris is responding, Martin says, Victoria, you can play Valorant on a toaster. Just put it on your laptop.
It would just be so sad, but it's more so the fact that then I wouldn't get any work done. But thank you.
And Sharky says, let's play some ranked Rocket League sometime. It's a good idea, Sharky. I think hopefully it makes it as an esport, and all that ranked gameplay will be worth it. I played only literally a couple rounds of Apex this week. I didn't have time for anything else. However, I did find the most fun Valheim article, or just maybe gaming article in general, that I've seen in the last while. And I'll show you guys, and I'll read the headline here. Valheim player recreates Stormwind Harbor from World of Warcraft. and there's actually an image of the Stormwind Harbor that they built in Valheim. I mean, combining Valheim and WoW just, made my heart melt. And I wish I could have done that. I mean, I don't know how many hours this guy put in or this person put in, but that is impressive. Chris says, only game I played this week, 12 hours in already. Girlfriend not too happy with me. Well, there you go.
Loop Hero looks like something, Chris. I'm going to check it out. I think you and I will be chatting about that next week. I will also say, by the way, a little bit of my gaming time has been taken up by The Expanse. I've actually started to watch a little bit of TV, which I find negative. But I don't know. I've just really enjoyed that show. So heads up to people who are looking for TV recommendation.
On that note, guys, unless there's anything else, that wraps up this week's live stream. I just want to thank all of you guys, Lindsay, William, Victoria. You guys are all amazing. Thank you so much, as always. Thank you to everyone who was in here, who participated, who asked questions. All of you guys, Chris, Martin, Sharky, Christian, Greg, Bodrich, all you guys, thank you so much for participating, being a part of this. Matthew, tell your friends about the live stream. We do it every Wednesday evening, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. Would love for more of you to bring your friends, bring your colleagues. Also, tune into the podcast tomorrow. It drops every Thursday. It's a great episode tomorrow. Like I mentioned, we talk about Allied. We talk about Roblox, all the big news we cover on the podcast. And also go follow us, guys, on other places. On Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, we're at Biz Esports. On YouTube, we're the Business of Esports. If you follow us there, subscribe, whatever's there, would be really appreciated. Go buy the Book of Esports. Go buy some Business of Esports merch. And as always, we will see you guys next week.